And then he named the subs, and he named me on the bench. And I just sat there thinking, I'm sure he's just said my name. About 10 minutes to go, the manager told me to get ready to come on. I stood at the sideline, he had his arm around me for about 4 or 5 minutes, the ball just wouldn't go out. I remember Steve Vickers got hold of the ball and the gaffer was just shouting him, just kick it out, just kick it out.
Campbell, but could find himself quickly under pressure here. It's Whelan again. Bartes has got back into goal now. This is Windass. Campbell is free. Andy Campbell has done it.
And I think that moment I realised that was my last goal for the club. I think my first game I scored 1, my first home game I scored 2, and my next away game I scored 3 in my loan spell. So the club made it permanent after that Oldham game. My momentum took me right in front of the Oldham fans, and it wasn't me being arrogant or taking the mick out of supporters. I ended up right in front of their supporters, and somebody threw a pie, smashed me right in the side of the face, and tomato sauce was all over my face, all over my shirt.
Gareth Wally, Campbell, he's onside. It's Andy Campbell. It's in.
I scored the winning goal because 17, 18 years ago, it's more famous now than it was back then, you know. So it's a fantastic thing for me. But the group of players, we had a surreal season. If we hadn't gone up, I wouldn't like to think where the football club would have gone, because they would have sold a lot of the players. So it was a really healthy time, really nice time to be part of a successful group of lads. Obviously spoke to the surgeon, and he told me that time was up on training full time, playing full time, and maybe I should look to do something else. But when obviously we heard the news that the club was going to go bust, it was heartbreaking, because players come and go. Players can go and get another job. You know, we had secretaries, we had people, executives, we had other people who relied on those jobs and that money, and it was heartbreaking, you know.
Welcome back to the D5 Football YouTube channel. This week's episode, we've got someone on who scored the winner against Man United in the FA Cup, played around 50 games in the Premier League, scored the winner in the 2003 League One playoff final, and has played in the England under-21 sides with Frank Lampard, Jamie Carragher and Steven Gerrard. It's, of course, Andy Campbell. How you doing, mate?
I'm good, Nathan. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me on. Looking forward to it.
Appreciate you taking time out. Obviously, you got your own show. We're going to speak about that at the end, obviously, what you do. Let's take you back to the start then. How did you get into football and how did you end up at Middlesbrough?
I was quite lucky, really, that my brother Neil was a footballer before me. So obviously, me mum was a little bit bored of me and Neil kicking footballs against the garage as parents do back in the day, and playing in the garden and ruining the grass. So my mum took us down to the local club. Neil was a couple of years older than me, so he went into a team, and I just followed on. I just followed his coattails, so to speak, and trained with his team, and really enjoyed it. It kept me out of trouble. It kept me out of my mum and dad's hair, so to speak. And then when they formed a team 2 years later, I loved it. Stayed at the same team all the way through until I signed schoolboy formed at 14, and then like later down the line, cutting a little bit out. But I went on to coach for that club as well, just to give something back, because I know how important junior football club is. Because if it's not for all the volunteers, you know what I mean, the coaches who give up hours and hours and hours for me. When I was a young lad, I wouldn't have got that opportunity, you know, that people give up Sunday afternoon, Sunday mornings, Saturdays, Thursdays, Tuesdays. It's relentless sometimes. So I was really pleased that I got an opportunity to play for Martin Juniors. Martin are quite a historic team in the North East. They've brought through the likes of the Jonathan Woodgates and the Stewie Downings and the Ben Gibsons of this world, and I'm just glad to be one of those names to come through as well.
I think something fun enough I saw earlier this week, I don't know if you saw it, something about how younger siblings have more of a chance of making it to the pro level, and apparently it's because of something like they want to compete with the older sibling, and that's like they're playing against someone who's a bit better, you know, because they're a bit older and stuff like that, and that sort of pushes them on, makes them more determined and stuff like that. I don't know if you saw that, but that perhaps sort of lines up well for you. I don't know.
Well, I was lucky, Nathan, for me, because I knew, I saw my view was dead easy. You know what I mean? I see on my pathway. My pathway was, my brother went into YTS. I knew what a YTS was. He signed pro. I knew what a pro was. He got released. I knew what that meant. I knew he got sold. I knew what that meant. I knew what was involved in loads of things, making your debut, playing with reserves, cleaning boots, doing jobs. There's loads of things that I knew what was in front of me before everyone else was. So nothing shocked me, really. You know what I mean? Everything what I had to do, what I was told, what I saw was very natural and very easy to do, really. So I was very lucky, really, I think.
Didn't go work out for me. I'm the youngest sibling of 5 other brothers and sisters. not any good at football or anything like that, so don't always work out. But yeah, you said obviously you got involved in youth team, then obviously YTS and all that, then got involved Middlesbrough, obviously a hometown team and team you support, I believe.
Yeah.
Middlesbrough, again, getting involved in that, and when did you sort of realise then, okay, that you might actually sort of, rather than just being in there and then moving to another team, you might actually be sort of getting involved and actually playing first team?
Well, I nearly didn't sign for Middlesbrough really. I went on trial at Southampton at 14, and I came back. Southampton had offered me a contract, and by the time that I came back home, Middlesbrough got wind of this, and I had Ron Bourne, who was the obviously the head of the youth team, set up at Middlesbrough at the time, and Ron came to my house and offered me a 2-year schoolboy form, which took me up to the end of my school and ready to sign YTS. And then at 16, when I left school, Ron offered me a 2-year YTS, and once Middlesbrough offered me that, there was no turning back really. You know, Middlesbrough was a club that I dreamed of signing for, wanted to play for. It was just the opportunity, waiting for that opportunity. And like I say, went in there, did what I needed to do, and played in the youth team. Got a couple of opportunities in the reserves, and then I was lucky enough at 16 in my first season that I played my debut on Good Friday. It was 25 years ago yesterday actually, so it was a long time ago. But I got I got about 6 or 7 minutes. Towards the end of the game in the Premier League, which is it was a dream come true for me. You know that I'm a Middlesbrough fan. I'd watched them at Essen Park, and this was the first season at the Riverside. Brian Robson, new manager, with all these world class stars in the side as well, and with all these plans, it was a surreal time for me and my family.
Your debut then, what was that like? And obviously, you just said it 25 years ago yesterday.
Yeah, it was a dream. You know, I got the game on video. You know, that's how old it was. You know, Sky gave me a video recorder of the game, and I have took it over and changed it over DVD, but I still kept the video because it meant so much. You know that it, you know, it's all cliche that you live the dream, but that was a dream. You know what I mean? I had a dream that I'd play for Middlesbrough. I had the dream that I'd play at Essen Park, Middlesbrough. That didn't materialise because obviously they moved to the new stadium. But I lived loads of dreams for other people, and you know what I mean. My mum and dad were so proud. My brother was proud, and it was an opportunity for me to start my football journey and start my football career. And yeah, I loved it short term, and then obviously made my full debut a week later at Liverpool at Anfield, which again, you know, there's not many people can say that and things, but yeah, it was a surreal moment, a couple of weeks in my life, really.
Make your debut then. When did you realise, call from the manager or whatever, that you were going to first be subbed on and then eventually starting, obviously later on?
Well, yeah, the story. Well, when I got called to the ground on the Good Friday, because it was obviously 25 years ago, Good Friday, I was there to do jobs. So I'd set the kit up with the kit man Alex Smith. I was cleaning boots. I was doing things in and around the ground, and I went upstairs to have a bite to eat with the players because it was their pre-match meal, and the manager named the team, which obviously I wasn't in, which I didn't expect to be. He made a couple of surprise inclusions and changed the team a little bit, and then he named the subs, and he named me on the bench, and I just sat there thinking, I'm sure he just said my name. And John Pickering, who was first team coach at the time, who'd been with me all the way through my career, really, who passed away a good few years ago now. But John sat next to me and just said to me, listen, you've earned this opportunity. You know what I mean? You're going to get a chance to come on. So take it. And then we'll see what happens tomorrow. And you know what I mean? I always reminisce from me, you know, that he made that effort to sit next to me, and he made the effort to calm me down and make sure that I wasn't getting too carried away or excited or nervous. And yeah, warmed up most of the game, to be honest, because there was a big crowd there. I was always turning around to see if I knew anybody, and everyone was dead supportive. And about 10 minutes to go, the manager told me to get ready to come on. I stood at the sideline. He had his arm around me for about 4 to 5 minutes. The ball just wouldn't go out. I remember Steve Vickers got hold of the ball, and the gaffer was just shouting him, just kick it out, just kick it out. And luckily for me, Stevie listened. He kicked the ball out, and the gaffer brought me on, and you know, it was an amazing, I think 6, 7, 8 minutes. I didn't give the ball away. I was quite bright, quite lively. Really enjoyed it, and it gave me that appetite and hunger to. I want this again. You know, this isn't just a one-off. I don't want this to be a one-off. I want to do it again and again and again, and get this feeling every week.
Then, in terms in goals-wise, first goal, what was that like?
Amazing. My first goal was in the League Cup. I think it was Coca-Cola Cup at the time against Sunderland at home in local derby. Sell out of the Riverside. 38,000 fans. It was a noise, Nathan, more than anything. You know what I mean? The noise during the game, it's a strange feeling, strange thing to explain, but when a goal goes in, it's deafening. You know what I mean? Especially at the time, it was a second half goal. It was 0-0 at the time. with Sunderland, you know what I mean. The noise was that little bit louder as well, and you know, I mean, I'll always have a good place in my heart because it was in a local derby. It was my first goal at Riverside. It was full of world class stars in my team. It was against a couple of friends as well who played on the opposite side. So it means so much for various reasons. And one thing about packing in football and reminiscing about your football career, nobody can ever take it away from you. You know, when goals like that, no one can ever say it wasn't your goal because there's, you know what I mean, there's video footage of it, and it's great. Yeah, it's great always to look back on sometimes.
And one goal you scored was one against Sheffield Wednesday, a bit of a sort of lob, and it's similar to a goal we'll talk about later, I think. So that's plant a little seed there, talk about that later.
I was quite renowned for a lob over the goalkeeper. It was something that I worked on in training. It was something that I worked on with technique about volleys and stuff because, you know what I mean, especially being a striker, that we did a lot of shooting practice and a lot of technique work, and it was just one of those things that I found out that I was pretty good at it. And yeah, it was a quick taking free kick, I think, by Paul Ince, and I seen Kevin Pressman off his line and just managed to chip the ball over his head. And luckily enough, he was a little bit off his line, probably more than he should have done. And it was a winning goal of the game. And the story after that game, that was the game that I got called in the under-21 squad straight after the game. I wasn't in the original squad, but Howard Wilson and Kevin Keegan were at the game that afternoon, and I must have impressed because obviously I played 3 days later in the Euro qualifier as well, which is obviously another unbelievable experience. But to be told that you've been called up by your manager and by your chairman at the football club is just I was on cloud nine for about 2 weeks. You know, I just never came down.
And I think if I'm right, looking at the numbers, hopefully numbers aren't wrong. We're sort of saying this beforehand about for this time period. Yeah. Sometimes trying to find stats and numbers and exact things are a bit hard. But from what I've seen, your main season for Middlesbrough was the 99-2000 season where you played the most amount of games, and other seasons where it was here and there, a few games. You know, that season I'm playing consistently and playing large number of games. What was that like? Obviously.
Oh, great! You know, I earned my stripes. You know, I went on loan at Sheffield United for Steve Bruce in League One Championship, what it is now. I did the same at Bolton. Earned my stripes under Sam Allardyce. Did the same thing. Worked hard and got my reputation, and I got myself an opportunity at Middlesbrough. And I played probably 30 odd games that year in the League and Cup, and it was a great experience. You know, I kept out some very good players. I earned every game I got, more starts, and it was a good season. We had a solid season. I was getting a reputation for myself with my pace and the way that I played wide, played centre forward. I was quite versatile, so I was quite lucky really that I got to play as many games as I did in various positions because we had Juninho came back as well, which was great for the football club, great for me personally because I really respected him and looked up to him and things. But yeah, it was nice to keep those kind of players out and be rewarded by your own personal performances because I had a good season that season and thoroughly deserved everything what came with it, with the rewards of new contracts, with the rewards of playing for my country and stuff. So yeah, I was really pleased.
And with regards to sort of other players you played with at Middlesbrough, sort of learning from and, you know, sort of being involved with, you mentioned a few before, but what type of players were you involved with and what did you learn from them?
Well, obviously, when I was growing up, it was Bernie Slave and John Hendry, Paul Wilkinson, and those guys. And luckily enough, now I'm good friends with all three, so it's a fantastic experience. But playing with guys, Craig Hignett, Jan Fjortoff, Mikael Beck, Alan Boksic, Ravanelli, Juninho, Chris Feaston, you know, it's endless. I could go on. Zilad Nemeth, these kind of players, you know what I mean? They helped me so much at training. They helped me so much in the game. I was Hamilton Rickard, you know what I mean? Played alongside him, socialised with him outside of the game. I got to know him inside out. It's these kind of things. Brian Dean, the same thing. They helped me so much on the pitch, but then guided me off the pitch as well. Because I was a young lad. Make mistakes, you know what I mean? Do the wrong things at times, like we all do, but do it at a young age, you know. But these people are there to say, listen, you shouldn't be doing that. Try this, do this. You know what I mean? You make a mistake. Everyone makes mistakes. Everyone's human, but they were there to guide me on and off the pitch. And then obviously I had the manager as well, who was like my dad. You know, he was my football dad, and he gave me that platform and that experience, along with Ron Bourne as well, who shouted at me when I needed it, but also put my arm on me as well and told me how good I was when I needed it as well, because it's a man management and being in the right place at the right time for those guys. And they were fantastic for my life, never mind just my football.
Another player who was at Middlesbrough around this time was a certain Paul Gascoigne, who's quite famous now. For my generation, obviously, never saw him play or anything like that, but I've heard stories. The media portrayal of him, is that as true? Is or is he a little bit different to sort of how he's portrayed?
No, he's mad. He's as mad as a box of frogs. But what goes with it as well, and I don't think what people really know is how kind he is, how genuine he is, how he's just a normal man. He's got feelings. He gets hurt. He doesn't like all the abuse he gets. But tell you what, when he's on that football pitch, the things that man could do with a football was extraordinary. You know, his ability, his attitude towards football, how much he loved football. He absolutely adored it because he didn't do anything different. You know, he was brought up in a rural part of Newcastle, I believe, and obviously his family pushed him to be a professional footballer at Newcastle United. He got obviously his move to Spurs, and then his career and his life took off, you know, and because he was this world superstar, you know what I mean, and it was just a shame that the way things have ended, because you know what, with the reputations that the Messi's got and the Pelés and the Maradona, Gaza was that good, you know what I mean, he was world class, you know what I mean, that brand and that name, world class, is thrown around too much for me, you know what I mean, he was on that level. You know what I mean? He was on that level when he came to Middlesbrough because he just came from Rangers. But he was superb on and off the pitch. He was so much fun off it, and he made things interesting on the pitch as well.
And there was a game against Aston Villa, I think, and I want to say you ended up getting beat 4-1, 5-1,
4-0.
something like.
Yeah, we got
4-0.
beat 4-0 at home.
Game where he broke his arm, I think, trying to elbow one of the players. What did you see of that? And when you saw it, what do you think? Because he looks agony to me.
Yeah, well, Gaza was all arms, so you know what I mean. Gaza, you know what I mean. He was all arms where he played. He flares his arms left, right, and centre, and that's just the way that he did things in the centre of the park. And I think it was George Boateng at the time that he hit in the face, and Gaza ended up breaking his arm, and he broke it in quite a lot of places. And listen, we were gutted for him. We were gutted for us because it was a huge part of what we needed. We obviously lost him in that game and lost him for a long time. I don't really think he ever recovered in Middlesbrough after that. We obviously didn't recover because we had a heavy defeat, and things didn't really pick up towards the end of the season as well. So it had a huge impact with one injury, you know what I mean? But yeah, I was gutted for him because nobody likes injuries, and you know what I mean. And I only learned probably later in my career that the injuries are part and parcel of the game, but to see somebody in that much pain, it's not very nice.
And more towards the end of your Middlesbrough career. Was a game against Man United. Now, I don't want to make you feel old, but I was only about a month old at the time of this game. So don't want to make you feel old, but, you know, this is sort of the time we're talking about. Towards the end of your career. Now, look, again, maybe you could fill me on this. It seems a little bit strange to me. Maybe I'm missing something, that you sort of didn't seem like you were in the team at the time. You weren't really involved. And yet you're involved in this game against Man United. Am I missing something there, or what's going on?
No, listen, Steve McLaren took over. He came into Middlesbrough with his fresh ideas, with his new players. He brought in Michael Ricketts, he brought in Malcolm Christie, Macaroni, some other big hit centre forwards as well. So he told me that my time was going to be limited. He told me game time. He said that I think it's time that I look for another club, which I did. I spoke to a couple. I was in the process of talking to Aberdeen at the time. I'd already spoke to Cardiff, and then a couple of injuries hit that week, and the manager said, you're going to be involved in the squad against United at the weekend. So listen, I'd bend over backwards to that football club, you know what I mean? So to say that I'm going to play, regardless what managers told me what, and if they don't like me, it was irrelevant for me, because that football club is my football club, and I would run through a brick wall, you know what I mean, for it any day of the week, 365 days a year. So when I got the opportunity, I took it with both hands, because I knew that game could be my last game. So I had a good idea that that's going to be my last opportunity to play the Riverside against Man United. It doesn't get any bigger than that. FA Cup. Love the FA Cup. I've had a good history with it throughout my career, and luckily enough, got the second goal, and my celebration probably spoke 1,000 words that how passionate I was, and I think that moment I realised that was my last goal for the club, and then I think 5, 6, 7 days later I ended up leaving the football club for Cardiff City. So you know what I mean, I was under no illusions that my time was up at that football club, but I was not going to not try for that game, because I loved every second I wore that red shirt.
And obviously said left for Cardiff. The sort of how we found you, if you like, we told you a little story before, and about how sort of we ended up finding out about you, and then obviously asking on Cardiff City. How did that move come about, and why did you pick them perhaps over some of the other teams you mentioned at Aberdeen there? Why Cardiff?
Well, I spoke to the manager, Alan Cork, at the time. Alan rang me up on the Sunday after the Middlesbrough Man United game and said that the clubs had agreed an opportunity for me to move, and he said, if you ever think about it in a couple of days, we'll We'll have a conversation. We'll sit down. We'll have a chat. And Corky lost his job on the following weekend when I was supposed to speak to him on the Sunday. So he lost his job at Wigan on the Saturday. He got beat 4-0. And then the manager who took over was Lenny Lawrence. And Lenny and me go back a long way. Lenny signed me at Middlesbrough when I was 14. So when Lenny rang me and said, "Listen, the club still want you. I want you." He said, "Will you come for me?" And I said, "There's not many people that I would leave Middlesbrough Football Club for." And I said, "You're probably one of the only ones." So I said, "Of course I will. I'll come down. I'll come on loan originally just to see if the club suits me, if I suit the club." But basically, I did it for Lenny and loved it. Absolutely loved playing. The club is a great club. Fans were amazing. Players were superb, better than I imagined when I went. You know what I mean? They were a League One club at the time, but they had Championship players, Premier League players. They were that good at the time, and they were just underachieving a little bit. They just needed a little bit of help, which I believe I gave. And I think my first game I scored 1. My first home game I scored 2, and my next away game I scored 3 in my loan spell. So the club made it permanent after the Oldham game. We beat them 7-1, so I signed permanently for just under £1 million on the day after that, and then the rest history, so to speak. I love my time at Cardiff City, I wouldn't change any of it really. It was a great spell for me.
You mentioned the Oldham game there, 7-1 away at Boundary Park, obviously freezing like it is today, actually, snowing and stuff like that. Very cold, obviously, in Oldham. 7-1, scored an hat-trick. Again, what was that like? You just scored goals before, but hat-trick-wise, that must have been...
Well, the funny story was that we were in the hotel on the Friday night, and we just thought we'd go and sit down for a meal, like we do every Friday before a game, for an away game, a fixture. And Andy Goran was sat there, and Andy was one of my heroes growing up. You know, I love Rangers, I love Scottish football at the time, and especially how successful Rangers were. Andy was sat there and sat there. I had a chat with him. He told me that he'd just signed an emergency loan deal at Oldham, and he was going to be playing tomorrow. So I was thinking, geez, Andy Goran, we're never going to score tomorrow. You know what I mean? He's going to be. Yeah, but I said, you know, I'd love to score past him. It'd be some moment for me to be able to score past him. And luckily enough for me, I scored 2 in the first half. I think we were 5-0 up at half time, and then managed to get me 3rd in the second half. But one of the goals which I keep tweeting about in the Oldham game, that my momentum took me right in front of the Oldham fans, and it wasn't me being arrogant or taking the mick out of supporters. I ended up right in front of their supporters, and somebody threw a pie, it smashed me right in the side of the face, and tomato sauce was all over my face, all over my shirt. And it was, I'd love to find and meet the man who did it, because I've never ever once seen the footage of the game. It's one game which I've never got to see the goal since I've scored it. But an amazing experience. As I say, everything we hit that day went in. It was probably the best footballing display I've been involved in probably 17 years football career, because we passed the ball amazing. The fans, you could just hear them singing for the full game, and it could have been worse for Oldham as well. So they were quite fortunate. We only stuck at 7 really.
That's one of the things I was going to ask about the pie, asking, did that actually happen? Is that a bit of an urban myth? It's something I found as well.
Something really happened, Jeff. Yeah. Something really happened, and I had to clean up at half time. I changed my shirt, which was quite lucky really, because it was a shirt which obviously at the end of the game I wanted to keep anyway. So with me wearing another shirt, I just pocketed my other shirt. So I've been able to keep the hat-trick shirt. It was back in the day, we didn't really have spare shirts to go and share around. So it was I got a nice pie in the side of the face and tomato ketchup all over my face, which was I wouldn't waste a pie on me, however angry I was. But yeah, fair play to whoever threw it. I would love to meet him though. I'd love to meet him.
It sounds like something that you'd make up for like a skit or something like that, but for it to actually happen and say it the way the sauce went down and everything went over it sounds a bit strange. And as for the video,
it was great.
This is something we spoke about before. Obviously, we're trying to find videos, stuff like that. And like the Cardiff, you got it on DVD, but videos and stuff like that. It's true, the level really at the time that you didn't really have. Now we're so lucky that every single goal gets put up everywhere. You get full. Back then, it was very much, sometimes there were goals that were scored and you had to be there to see it. If you didn't see it, then, it wouldn't be recorded or anything like that. So I think they probably were recording at Oldham at that time. I know I've seen goals from that time.
Yeah, I listen to that. Someone somewhere will have every goal from that year, and I'll get hold of it, and I'll get a copy of it for sure. But it's just finding the right person who collects them,
Yeah, DVDs and all that, season highlights. Before my time again as well, but used to have, if you wanted to watch the goals, I've had to watch it on like Granada Reports or something in the evening. I had to buy a DVD at end of the season with some funky music and graphics over to go and watch it. It's all different.
Well, that's what I've got. I've got Middlesbrough goals from Essen Park. From probably 1991, 92 seasons. I've still got them now. I've put them on DVD, which is obviously because I haven't got a video recorder, but it's a time of a football fan growing up with my heroes that I can watch all the goals. It's absolutely great.
Also, at Cardiff, you had a game in the League Cup away at Spurs, I believe.
Yeah, we played Tottenham Hotspur away in the League Cup. I don't know, was it Carling Cup again or something at the time? Maybe. A great experience. You know what I mean? To play at White Hart Lane was always nice, and I'd always played pretty well at Spurs. And we didn't obviously win the game that evening, but playing on a nice pitch and being able to play against the best players in the Premier League at the time, you know what I mean? Some world class footballers. It was nice because it gives us a chance to test ourselves, you know, because when you're playing week in, week out in League One and the style of football is different. And like I said earlier on, we had some international footballers in our side. We had players who should be playing in the Premier League, certainly in the Championship. So, you know, I dropped down from Premier League all the way down to League One. So I wanted to show that I was good enough to go and step back up to that level. And obviously some of the other players did. So it was a good opportunity for us to platform our abilities, really.
And obviously at Cardiff, got to speak about it, obviously. The playoffs, 2003 playoffs, in what we'd now call League One. At the time, it was called Second Division and stuff like that. Bristol City in third, Queen's Park Rangers in fourth, Oldham Athletic in fifth, and Cardiff City in sixth. Going into those playoffs then, well, first of all, getting involved in the playoffs, getting into it, what was the season like for Cardiff and sort of what emotions going through it? Were the point where you're thinking you're going to be finishing higher than sixth, lower than sixth? You know, what was the emotions then of you that season?
I think we underachieved. I'll be honest. I think we should have done a lot better. We certainly should have finished higher than sixth. But the way the season's gone, we were lucky to finish in the playoffs at all. We went into the playoffs probably the worst form record. Probably most teams in the league. We were in the bottom three in form. We were letting goals in. We weren't scoring goals. We were playing really poor. We had meetings. We were trying to digest and we were trying to work out why things weren't happening. And the players had a meeting one day. We all went out and socialised. We all went out and said how it is and hope it worked. And thankfully for us, it did. We played Bristol City on the Sunday in the first leg of the semi-final. Beat them 1-0. Thorny scored a header. And then the second leg we drew 0-0. So for two semi-finals to not let a goal in against a very good Bristol City side, by the way, in a derby, was unbelievable. And it gave us an opportunity to play in the final in Cardiff for Cardiff. I believe it was written in the stars, you know, that listen, you know what I mean, that I couldn't believe how the atmosphere for the final. When we were staying in the hotel the night before, the buzz around the place, when we drove to the ground, you know what I mean, to see the amount of fans on the streets, you know what I mean, to witness us driving to the game was just phenomenal. You know that we're on about 40,000 fans in the ground for Cardiff. You know what I mean, there must have been 500,000 in the streets. It was scary, and I think I remember we sat in the changing room before the game and we spoke about the season before that we lost in the semi-final against Stoke, and we spoke about being too scared to lose and the feeling we would get if we won, and to make sure that we had that winning mentality, and we made sure that we got over the line, however it may be. Excuse me, and we did that, and it was a wonderful opportunity. And thankfully for me, I scored the winning goal because 17, 18 years ago, it's more famous now than it was back then, you know. So it's a fantastic thing for me. But the group of players, we had a surreal season. If we hadn't gone up, I wouldn't like to think where the football club would have gone, because they would have sold a lot of the players. So it was a really healthy time, really, and really, really nice time to be part of a successful group of lads.
During that, in the playoffs as well, you've got one eye, obviously, in the semi-finals, Bristol City, you're not through yet, but you've got one eye on the other games, and the other game was Queen's Park Rangers, the Oldham Athletic, was the other fixture. Yeah. If you've got one eye on them, looking at some of their players, thinking, he's quite good, I'm going to be coming up against him. If you've got one eye on that, thinking, sort of planning for the final, obviously, but still obviously making sure you're going to go through the semi-finals.
Well, we thought, and we spoke internally, we thought we had the harder game, because Bristol City for me should have gone up automatically. They had a really good season. We just beaten QPR 3 games ago, 4-0 away from home somehow. And obviously we beat Oldham twice, so we thought if we get through this, we've got an opportunity to win quite comfortably, which didn't obviously materialise. And to be honest, playoff games normally in the story is full of goals, but you know what I mean, one goal in the semi-final for us, one goal in the final, or 0-0, depends how you look at it, in 90 minutes. So you know what I mean, there wasn't many goals in that playoff semi-final and final for us. But we managed to do what we needed to do and keep 3 clean sheets for a team who hadn't really done that well defensively in the last 6 games of the season. You know what I mean? So we got over the line, and the club's never looked back really. You know what I mean? I know I speak to people at the club all the time, and current players, ex-players, and they're very honest. If we hadn't gone up that year, 2003, that where the football would be now, because the players would have gone, would they be stuck in the doldrums of League One, League Two, like some of those big football clubs are? It would be it's a scary thought, really.
What you said there about what would have happened if the club had not gone up, they would have sold players, is parallels to another team in the playoffs at the time, Oldham Athletic, who for those familiar with sort of low league football, very similar situation in terms of Oldham at that season, sold a lot of their players because they didn't go up, financial problems, and now obviously people familiar will see what's happened with Oldham still sort of around. So it very well could have been that alternate timeline.
No, I totally agree. And that was going to happen. You know, we had Robert Earnshaw. He wouldn't have stayed. Peter Thorne wouldn't have stayed. Danny Gavardon wouldn't have stayed. James Collins wouldn't have stayed. Graham Kavanagh wouldn't have stayed. Andy Campbell. I can't answer them questions, you know, because I didn't want to play League One football anymore. You know, I mean, I'd had enough of it. To be honest, I wanted to go back up and play in the Championship at least. And you know what I mean, so I think the answer would have probably been the majority of the players would have gone, and Cardiff would have been in a similar troubles that other football clubs have found themselves in.
Then your season back, you said you wanted to get back in the Championship. You did. That season, what was that like?
Frustrating. It didn't really work out the way that I wanted it personally. You know what I mean? I know, and I've been very open and honest. That goal I scored was probably the worst thing that happened to my Cardiff City career. After, because it gave me limited time. They went and signed some new players: Alan Lee, Richard Langley, Cameron Jerome, just to name a couple. So my game time was limited again a little bit. Still worked hard, still wanted to play. The manager lost his job, unfortunately. Lenny got the sack, and Dave Jones came in, and obviously quite high profile. Me and Dave didn't see eye to eye, and I left the football club, and that was it really. You know, I loved my time there, 4.5 years, and wouldn't change any of it. But when the manager doesn't see you in his plans, then for me, there's no other answer than to move and go and sign for a different club.
Sad way to perhaps to end it, that you know, you scored that goal and you were sort of the guy, and then it's sort of like other people have come in. Obviously, that's how it's got repetitive, and Cardiff are going to, like you sort of said, you didn't know what was going to happen if they didn't go up. Cardiff are going to be thinking, we've got to stay up here, so they're going to have to sign other players because they don't want to go back down and have to go back all again. So it's hard to do that.
It's football, mate. You know what I mean? And I was big enough, I was daft enough to understand that football moves on. I've seen it at Middlesbrough. You know what I mean? That you get promoted, you sign better players. You stay up, you sign better players. In order to get better, you've got to sign better players. And the players who are there, they have to step up and impress and try your best. You know what I mean? I was doing that under the old manager, but when the new manager came in, he had his new ideas. He wanted to bring different players in, and that's what happened. Listen, I've got no qualms about leaving. It was just another chapter in my career.
There are some low moves away, Doncaster, Oxford. And this, perhaps if I'm right, seems to be start of injury problems. You sort of said this before, of injuries and sort of sporadic sort of game time where you're not playing as much as you used to. Obviously, you're getting a bit older. Am I right there in looking at that? Yeah,
listen, you get older, you start picking up little injuries. My little injuries turned into a few more little injuries. My injuries turned into quite serious injuries, and then you come back thinking that you're invincible. So you try to do it again, and injuries start to catch up on you. You get a little bit older, and thinking I can still play the same way that I was at 18, which I think I look back now and realise that was impossible. But in my head, I thought I was still as quick as I was when I was 18, which I was putting my body through so much pain, so much strain. It caught up and it hit me really hard. You know, I left Cardiff, went to Dunfermline, enjoyed my 6 months there, to be fair. Played in the Scottish Cup final, played against obviously the Old Firm and all the other big sides over there, and then I wanted to come back home with a young family and sign for Halifax, but I picked up 2 horrific injuries at my time of the year. I'd snapped ligaments behind my knee, which kept me out for 6 months, and came back and then ruptured my Achilles, and that took me out for 9 months, and it was so frustrating because I was really enjoying my football. Chris Wilder was my manager. He loved me a bit. I loved him. I loved the players, loved the club. I had some amazing friends there, but I'd turn up every day at training, not training, getting treatment, and it was so frustrating, mentally, physically tough. And every time I was coming back from injury, I was so desperate to kick on and try again, and I was picking up other little injuries because I was putting so much strain on my body. It was scary, and then after I think after my Achilles injury, obviously spoke to the surgeon, and he told me that time was up, on training full time, playing full time, and maybe I should look to do something else. And it's not nice to hear. I did think for about 3 months that, do you know what, I don't believe him. I'm going to prove him wrong. But after 3 months, I'm still in the same position, thinking. I just woke up one day thinking, and you know what, I'm not an expert here, but someone's told me this. I've got kids, and I wanna be able to play with them when I'm older. I want to be able to run around when I'm older. I don't want to be in a wheelchair or walking with a stick. I want to be able to be healthy and fit and reminisce about the good times instead of people asking about the seriousness of injuries and things. So made the decision to pack in professional football and go down semi-pro route to see if that was something which I enjoyed, which I did. I still wanted to play, but I just couldn't train. It was recovery for me. I couldn't train more than once or twice a week if I was lucky. And when the games came thick and fast, I had to sometimes be quite selective on what days I played, because my body was telling me one thing, but my head was trying to tell me another.
Said they're signing for Halifax. It's obviously the National League link, obviously. Obviously called the Conference then. Reason for signing Halifax, I think one reason I can look at is previous season, Halifax were in the playoff final, lost, obviously. Was that one of your reasons you were thinking of signing for Halifax?
Yeah, and the manager. I played with the manager at Sheffield United on loan, so I knew him and I knew a couple of the players. So he was a major factor in my decision. So he asked me to come down. Obviously, they were in a position where they had a really good season the season before, but obviously lost out and wanted to do it and wanted to go at the next level. And I was pleased to help out. I love my football. I love the way that he did things. I played a lot of football games. I scored a lot of goals, and I really enjoyed my time. And if it wasn't for my injuries, I would have been even more successful. It was just injuries took over sometimes, and it was just a bit of a nightmare really sometimes, some weeks.
And the manager, Chris Wilder. Now, I think there's a bit of a class, if you like. You talk about class in '92. I think there was a group of managers who were in the league at that time who have since gone on to do quite well, and Chris Wilder's one of them. Being honest, at the time, I think he was still fairly early on in his second job. I think it was.
Yeah, I think it was his first one. I think he was a player when the year before. Yeah, I think it was his first job.
And he'd been there for a few years, obviously. Being honest, playing under it, were you thinking, this guy's going to manage in the Premier League, Championship one day? Or were the signs there, or was it a case of the fact that he perhaps picked up those sort of things later on?
I wasn't surprised one little bit. His man management style was unbelievable. His training style. What Chrissy knew. He knew his limits. He knew to have good coaches around him, because he let other people do the coaching. He knew how to talk to people. He knew how to manage people. Knew how to motivate. So it didn't surprise me seeing some of the Sheffield United players who were League One footballers 2 years ago to now be Premier League footballers, because you can motivate, you can tell somebody how good they are. You know what I mean? You start to believe it, because if a manager believes in you that much, you believe it, because you're told every day, every minute of every day, and it's a nice thing to hear. Man management style, I've never come across a manager who's better than him. So it doesn't surprise me one little bit that he got his opportunities at various clubs, Northampton, Oxford, etc. So and then when he moved to Sheffield United in League One to get promoted again, fair play to him, because he deserves an opportunity with the club he loved. It's just obviously disappointed that he lost his post this year.
And as for yours personally, then as well, looking at the numbers, I think the second season you numbers wise, goals wise, I think you scored a lot more compared to the first season, if I'm right there. I think was it 10 goals in the second season. Happy for you then for second season, doing quite well and scoring quite a few goals. And were you thinking something I might be sort of back here? Could you perhaps be back a bit if you were almost?
Yeah, listen, I'd seen off a really bad injury the season before, and then obviously got a serious injury at the start of the season. But then obviously picking up that injury just meant that it wasn't possible, and obviously being told the news that I couldn't carry on was heartbreaking. But I had to think of myself more than football. You know what I mean? And think of the team, because I wasn't one of them who was going to sit on my money as well and sit and think, I'll see my contract out for the rest of the season. You know what I mean? Because I knew I couldn't play. I knew I couldn't train every day, and if I wasn't being able to do my job and do what people wanted me to do, and I just think it's quite disrespectful. So, I'm pleased with what I achieved. I had a good season, personally. So, I was just disappointed with the way that ended for me personally, really.
As well, there was a hat trick against Droylsden. It's one of the teams, obviously, who were in and around there at the time. Like a few clubs that sort of dropped off now, and obviously they've had their problems this season. But Droylsden, hat trick against them, what was that like?
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, I think that was bank holiday weekend because I scored 2 on the Saturday and I scored 3 on the Monday. So it was a great weekend for me personally. It was a tiny weekend, but to score a hat trick in any game is great. I've still got the ball from that game, which all the players signed, including the manager, and obviously still got the Oldham one as well. So it's things that nobody can ever take away because these things are real, and you've got to put the effort in to get the reward. So, you know what I mean, the reward's certainly fantastic, but the effort was put in, and I thoroughly deserved to get what I got.
And coming towards the end of that season, then 2007, 2008, very sort of sad. The club eventually went bust. They got kicked out of the league for financial problems, and then eventually the club went bust, and then a new team were formed. Obviously, started at the 8th tier. Everyone, I think most footballers, we've played at a number of clubs, but we've involved with clubs that have had problems in some kind of way, going into admin, coming back out and stuff like that. But to be involved in a club and be there at a time when it doesn't exist anymore, what was that like? And that was quite sad. And obviously for the fans who 1 minute you're scoring, celebrating in front of them, next minute there's nothing there and it's gone almost. What was that like?
Yeah, heartbreaking because obviously I had my own little personal circumstances of what was going on with my own fitness. I knew it was coming to an end anyway. So when obviously we heard the news that the club was going to go bust, it was heartbreaking because players come and go. Players can go and get another job. You know, we had secretaries, we had people, executives, we had other people who relied on those jobs and that money, and it was heartbreaking. You know that. I have some really close friends still at Halifax at the club who worked there at the time, and still going to watch the games now. But you know what I mean. That time was so sad and heartbreaking for the fans, and so pleased that they've got themselves in a position now that they're back where they left basically. But yeah, it was a frustrating time and loads of upset. But just nice now that they've found themselves in a position where they're more stable than ever.
I think also one upside, if you almost, is that they still obviously same stadium, the Shea and stuff like that. We've seen rural clubs where they go bust, they don't get any stadium, they have to go to some ground share with someone else or anything like that.
Yeah.
And almost, I mean, at least I'd say this, I think Halifax fans would agree, it's almost basically the same team compared to, you might say other times, it don't feel like the same team. It just sort of feels completely different because the badge is different and everything's different. There's no different stadium and everything like that. So I guess that's sort of one consolation for them is that they still managed to keep the stadium and it feels the continuity is still there, if you like, and everything like that. And
it's
back where they are.
Yeah, it's nice, and it's nice though because obviously I've been back to the ground, and you know it doesn't feel any different. You know what I mean? It's the name's changed a little bit with FC in front of the Halifax Town, but you know what I mean. That some people are still there. You know what I mean? The chairman who put them into liquidation still there. You know what I mean? Who saved them basically from, you know what I mean? Obviously they went bust, but if it wasn't for him, you know, it wasn't for David Busmuth, they wouldn't be a football club now. So him and Bobby Ham need to take huge credit and success for what they've done for that football club, because if it wasn't for those two, that football club would have just gone extinct, and they're very lucky to have those two people still around the club.
As well, then leaving Halifax. But first of all, was there a part of you thinking, Halifax, obviously old Halifax, if you want to say, not even, were part of you thinking I could perhaps go and join the new Halifax, continue the story, or was that part of you, or were you thinking now I want to still play at the highest level I can?
No, because obviously when I went part time, it was more of a thing. I was the travelling was probably keeping up on me as well. I was travelling from Middlesbrough every day, which is obviously a long way to travel there and back, and then train in between. So maybe his injuries and the travelling had an impact on each other. But yeah, it was an opportunity for me to play more local and not do as much travelling and things, which I enjoyed doing. I could focus more time with the family. I could focus more time and maybe on training myself and putting myself in a better position for recovery, really, because I wasn't giving myself time to recover after games and training and stuff. I was driving up and down and training, and then waking up and doing the same thing again, which is a difficult thing to do.
And then you had sort of loan spell, not loan spell, sorry, the spells, fires to Celtic as well, Bradford Park Avenue, Whipped Town, fires to Celtic. Then that move, how did that come about?
Same thing again. I knew, I obviously been in the football circle. I knew John Deasy, the manager, and John took me to various clubs. Every time he moved to a club, I followed suit because John gave me an opportunity. So I just thought, you know what, I'll play for somebody who I respect, play for somebody who I like, and just enjoy my football, because I knew it was coming to an end. There was no doubt about it. You know, it was starting to wear thin. Injuries were picking up. I was picking up still silly little injuries, which was hampering my recovery. I wasn't getting as much game time as I wanted. Sometimes I couldn't train. But yes, I just needed to be around people that I could trust and people who I like being around. So that was the only decision really why I signed for him.
And so would it be similar then for Bradford Park Avenue, and then obviously at Whitby, just sort of trying to play for as much as you can while you can, injuries pending, fitness pending, just sort of enjoying sort of the last few years of your career.
Yeah, I just wanted to keep on enjoying, keep getting the buzz of scoring goals. I wanted to play in front of crowds. I wanted to just carry on as long as I could, and I just thought I saw the semi-professional route as an opportunity to keep platforming, keep playing. It wasn't easy. It was demanding on the body. It was hard work. There was some big teams, some big clubs, but especially the Whitby Town one was easy. It was on the doorstep more or less for me. So there was loads of friends who played for them as well. So it was an easy choice. No brainer really.
So highlight of those sort of last few years, if you like, say 2008, 2012, what would you say the highlight is of the sort of latter end of your career in sort of the lower non-league?
Probably scoring, still scoring goals. Scored against FC United. You know what I mean? Obviously, FC United are a big club with big following. You know, so every time they fought, they played anywhere, they took thousands and thousands of fans. So it was always nice to play against them. You wanted to play against a big crowd. I was a big game player myself, so I always knew that I'd bring my A game when the crowds came. It was always a better feeling when the bigger crowds came, but it was always a shock when the night game, when there's nobody there in the winter, when nobody wanted to come watch the games. But yeah, I'd probably say that the times against FC are the big games for probably Bradford or Farsley in the local derbies when you're playing some of the bigger sides, because it's you've got to bring your A game to those kind of games.
And then eventually coming to retiring proper, what was was there a final sort of thing that you said, yeah, this is it, I think curtain's coming down now, I'm going to end the career?
I got an opportunity management at semi-professional level, so it was an opportunity to maybe hang the boots up a little bit, which I did, and focus on some coaching and some managing. And it was probably forced into me because I didn't want to be a player manager. I'd done it for one game, and we lost the game, and I found myself not being able to say anything to the players because I hadn't performed as well. So it was a case of, you know what, I can't afford to do that. I've got to be separate from the players. So just decided just to not play, which was it. You know what I mean? I stopped being a manager after a couple of years. I put my boots back on, semi-professional, and again played at a local team in the area, which I loved for a couple of years up till 40. And then when I got to 40, I've still got my boots back on now for the over 40. So it's nice to be able to do it now, and I'm so glad now that I made that decision earlier in my career, that to try and save my health more than anything, that I can still play now and enjoy some team bonding and some football with the boys.
You mentioned management there. I'm gonna have to look at the names because teams are quite sort of lower non-league and not familiar with, but Norton and Stockton, Ancients, I think. Is that
Norton, Stockton, Ancients, yeah.
And then also
the Northern League, yeah.
West Auckland Town.
West Auckland, yeah.
Yeah.
West Auckland was a bigger step. I got Norton and Stockton Ancients promoted. We won a cup. I had a really successful time. Got a new job. Got offered a job at West Auckland. I had to take it because it was a big step up, big opportunity. But yeah, it was something which you're under more pressure. You know, the results didn't work out that year. Kept them up, which is a big achievement considering where we were. The following season, they decided to go down a different route, which is absolutely fine. You know, they went down a different route with a different manager, and I probably fell out of love a little bit of being a manager. So I decided to get my boots back on and go and play and have some fun and run around and get fit again. So it was win-win for everybody, really, I think.
Then after you left them, you thinking going back into another job, or did you think, nah, perhaps management's not for me?
Yeah, no, it wasn't for me. I didn't. I enjoyed doing it while I did it. But then when I came out of it, I said to everybody that was me done. I love talking about football. You know, I've got my own platform now, but for me, that's enough. I think managers, you've got to live and breathe it. You've got to do it 24/7. It's a full-time job, and if you don't put that much time and effort into it, you're never going to be a success.
Angel said there, you've got your own platform as well. Do you want to tell us, obviously, what you do on there, when you started it, why you decided to start doing it, and what exactly it is you do?
Yeah. We started the Andy Campbell football show. We started the Andy Campbell Championship show about 2 years ago. At the start of last season, 18 months ago. Just talking about Championship teams. Obviously, being an ex-Middlesbrough player, ex-Cardiff player, it made sense to talk about Championship and stuff. And then obviously lockdown hit us, so we changed it, we tweaked it, and went to the Andy Campbell football show, which we've had live guests, and we've had live guests every Monday since. We've done some amazing shows. We've had Emile Heskey, Charlie Adams, Stuart Downing. I had Neil Bishop on Monday just gone, which is a couple of days ago, or yesterday, which is fantastic. You know what I mean? Obviously, ex-Notts County, he's played in the conference, played at every level. He played up the Championship. It's just nice to hear people's stories, you know. And I'm a football fan. I love listening to people's anecdotes, people's stories, the way that people come in and out of the game, and current players and stuff. So it's great. And we still do the Championship show on Friday now. So we've got both platforms going on. It's nice to have that mix and opportunities and still talk about football.
And makes it easier as well if you've got an ex-pro. It makes it a bit easier that you've got your own platform. If you like, with all these people who have members, you scoring the goal and all that, and they're gonna listen to him because he's sort of the legend, if you like, and it makes it a bit easier for you to sort of put your stuff out and people for them to listen.
Yeah, well, I don't. It's very rare. I've only started to since probably the last couple of weeks. I've not done anything on myself. I've not spoke about my career for a very long time. I'm not sure why. I think it's just I've done the show and obviously speak about other people's careers, which is great. But I just love listening to success stories. I love people who've come from non-league to be professional footballers, like the Jamie Wardys, like Neil Bishop last night. People who played at the very top, like Emile Heskey. The old school players. I had Clayton Blackmore on, ex-teammate of mine, but played for Man United, won the Premier League. You know what I mean? Just players who've just done so well. You know what I mean? And the transition in and out of the game. I love that. I love what people do now. The transition. And did they find it easy? Did they find it hard? What they're doing? You know what I mean? Are they enjoying it? It's fascinating. And yeah, really, really enjoy doing it.
And I think that's pretty much it. Apart from obviously, I never forgot. Obviously, England and England 21s. I think it was. Is that what it was called? Then it might have had a different name or something.
Yeah.
We said in the sort of little intro, and you sort of said you got the call up after. I think it was a goal I mentioned against Aston Villa. Was it? Sheffield Wednesday. Sorry, yeah. What was that like? And looking back, I think you look back at that. I think there's a photo going round, and it's like, who's number 11? What type of careers he had against all these sort of players who played in World Cup, Champions League finals, and all that type of thing. What was that like, and sort of being involved with some of those players?
No, listen. You know what I mean. I fully deserve to be in that photo. I was playing week in, week out in the Premier League at the time. I scored a goal in the Premier League at the weekend. Just gone. I started the game against Yugoslavia alongside Emile Heskey. Scored the first goal. You know what I mean. So I played a huge part in our country getting to that major tournament in Slovakia in the summer. So you know what I mean. You listen to the comments, you hear the comments, but I was just fully deserved in what I did and what I achieved that year and to play for my country. So nobody can ever take that goal off me. Nobody can ever take the caps off me. It's something which I'm really proud of because I love playing for my country. I love watching my country. So you know what I mean. It plays a huge role in my career. That.
I think it's sort of interesting as well, especially with like under 21s teams or anything like that, is that you might look back and like I said, it does seem quite strange the difference in careers that players had. By the time you were playing for Whitby, it was like Frank Lampard was playing in the Premier League, and the differences with that. But at that point, you were probably if you like near enough around the same sort of what do you call it? You're obviously playing week in, week out and stuff like that, and then the career trajectory is just different because you get a bit of luck and stuff like that, and things happen and stuff like that. So it's quite interesting to see the differences that these players were here, and then they've just gone in different sort of. I think I said there's a few podcasts ago. One of the guys that the way it sort of goes is quite strange. But out of them, those guys you were with at the time, were there any you thought, oh, this guy, I think he's sort of going to be the good one or anything, or that you were looking at and thinking he's going to be quite good?
Listen, when I played alongside these guys, the Franks, the Rios, the Stevie Gs, the Emils, I knew they were going to be world class players. They only played in that game because we needed to qualify for the Euros in the summer. You know, I mean, they were already played for the full squad. They all went to the World Cup for Kevin Keegan that year. So listen, they were doing a favour more for the country than anything. But they were world class football and thoroughly deserved the recognition and the accolades that they got. And it was a great opportunity for me to play with them in that game and play alongside them. But yeah, it was they had amazing careers.
And you scored a goal, I believe, as well. In that tournament, I think, was it the 2000 the under-21s tournament, if I'm right? Was it 2000?
Yeah, I scored against Yugoslavia. It was I think a ball through from Emil, and just managed to compose myself and put it in the corner. It was an amazing achievement for me. Loved it. You know, I mean, there's no greater feeling scoring for your country, playing for your country, and wearing the three lions and national anthems and things, and I mean, those kind of things that the people can't take away from you, and that you thoroughly deserve the accolades what you get.
Now we've got some of the quick fire questions. Advice you would give to younger players coming into the game?
Work harder than anybody else. You don't have to be the best player in the world or in the team, but as long as you work harder than anybody else, you give yourself the best possible chance.
Moment where you thought, what on earth am I doing here? This is a bit of a crazy moment, not something you'd have expected growing up wanting to be a footballer.
Probably when I was stood ready to come on my debut, that was probably the most surreal moment of my life, thinking, you know what I mean, is this really happening to me, that I'm going to be making my Premier League debut any second? And it was just a pinch yourself moment.
If you could change one moment or result from your career to go back, change it in a time machine, see the alternate timeline, see what would have happened, what moment would you change and why?
I probably wouldn't have played the game where I ruptured my Achilles playing for Halifax Town. I knew on the morning that things weren't great. My body wasn't feeling great when I woke up on the morning, and I made the decision to play. I made the decision to have an injection in order to play that afternoon. So if I could probably change one little bit, it would be to just say no, that I wasn't fit that afternoon.
What do you think might have happened then if you'd not done that and then you took the time off?
Who knows? Who knows? You know, if I could have given myself enough time to get over it. But football waits for nobody. You know, you're under pressure to play. The gaffer wanted me to play, and I happily agreed to play. So I've got. It's not a regret. You know what I mean? I've got no regrets at all. You know, because it could have been fine. I was told by the doctors that the injection would have been enough, and it felt all right for I think 30, 45 minutes, and then just before half time it snapped. So it was unfortunate, I think.
And before we go, we just spoke about but obviously Andy Campbell football show and championship. Where, if people want to watch that, want to listen to it, whatever, where would they find you? What should they follow?
We're live on a Monday, 7:30. We're live on Facebook, Periscope, Twitter, and YouTube. The Andy Campbell football show, and then on Friday at 7:00, the championship show. I'm on all platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, the AC Footy Show, I think it is. So yeah, check us out. Have a look at some of our old shows. Have a look at our future guests. It's an interesting show.
Yeah, we'll make sure, if I remember, hopefully, put it in the description and people can go and have a watch. But you know what to search up anyway. You'll search up on Twitter anyway. And thanks to you, mate. I think, going to be honest, I don't want to rank the guests, if you like, in terms of stature and sort of status, but I'd probably say you're probably the biggest guest, if you like, in terms of status that we've had on.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's listen, hopefully keep smashing the ceiling, get someone on who's a bit of a bigger name. Who knows? We'll have to see.
Yeah, good luck. Yeah,
we'll have to see.
Keep working hard, mate. That's all you can do. You just keep working hard. You keep persevering. You know what I mean? It's there's plenty of platforms out there, but you know what I mean. It depends how hard you work, how much effort you put in, and good things come to those who work hard, I believe.
And it is as well, doing this, obviously I'm 16 now, is the difference in players that you've played at Premier League and with this level, and you had some lads who were playing 7th tier, 6th tier, and now this is their first season in the National League and they're getting their chance. The difference is that it's very interesting and stuff like that. And similar to what you were saying, you love hearing all the stories of people and how they've got to where they are, and interesting. So thanks to you, mate, for taking time out of your day.
No, my pleasure. Good luck with everything.
And to everyone watching this, just say thanks for checking it out and having a listen to stories and stuff like that. It's quite interesting. And be sure to hit subscribe. That lets us know that we do more for this Halifax, obviously, and obviously also as well, I think a few of the Cardiff fans and Middlesbrough fans will be watching this to hear your story as well. So if you want to listen to some National League stuff, we're going to do some other interviews with National League players as well. And, sort of stuff like that. So you want to hear that type of thing about the National League, be sure to hit subscribe and we'll do some more stuff. And yeah, just thanks to everybody for supporting, because it is quite crazy, obviously, that it's obviously doing these and I'm enjoy doing it. And as long as people keep watching it, I'm going to keep doing them. But yeah, thanks, mate, for taking time out.